Celestia Academy stood like a crown on the hill, its old Gothic towers wrapped in ivy, the windows glowing softly with golden morning light. The school was elite, almost sacred. People whispered about the students who walked its halls, gifted, brilliant, strange. And then there was Felix. He sat near the back of the classroom, by the window. Always by the window. Some said he chose that seat because it was closest to the sky. Others believed it was because he needed the light, because he heard emotions, and if he wasn't grounded by the sun, he'd lose himself in the noise of everyone's hearts. No one knew for sure. Felix didn't speak much. But when he did, his voice felt like velvet wrapped in thunder, soft but deep enough to leave a mark. That morning, when you walked into the room, the world seemed to still. You didn't notice him at first. Your eyes scanned the room full of strangers, your name whispered at the front by the teacher. Please take the empty seat next to Felix. You walked there, quietly, sat down, unaware of the chaos you just caused inside him. Felix turned his head just slightly. He felt it immediately. Silence. Where there should have been your emotions, music, colors, fragments of your soul, there was nothing. No noise. No melody. Just a stillness he had never known. And for the first time since his gift had awakened, Felix felt peace. The days passed slowly. You tried to adjust, to the heavy books, the way everyone seemed to be hiding something, and most of all, to the quiet boy beside you. He didn't say much, but his presence was calm, like the eye of a storm. One day after class, as rain tapped gently against the windows, you finally spoke. Why do you always stare out the window? Felix blinked. Then, because it's quieter out there. You tilted your head, confused. He glanced at you again, eyes soft but unreadable. And you're even quieter than that. You laughed. That's one way to call someone boring. But Felix wasn't smiling. His voice dropped, almost a whisper. No, not boring. Just safe. You didn't understand what that meant. But something inside you whispered, stay. A week later, you found a note in your locker. It was written in messy, lowercase handwriting. Rooftop. After last period. If you're not afraid of heights, or me. You climbed the hidden stairwell, heart pounding, not sure what you were expecting. Felix was already there, leaning against the railing. The sky above him was bruised with twilight, the stars beginning to bloom. You came, he said simply. You nodded, breath catching from the view. Do you bring everyone here? He shook his head. No one. Ever. You stood beside him, the wind brushing your hair. And then he said it. When I hear people, I hear songs. Emotions become sounds. Chords. Melodies. But with you, there's only silence. You looked at him, unsure if that meant you were broken. But he turned to you, gaze burning with something honest. And I didn't realize how much I needed that silence until you sat next to me. The rooftop became your world. Every day after class, when the halls emptied and the shadows grew long, you'd climb the stairs and find him there, waiting. Always waiting. Felix would talk in fragments. Not about school or grades, but about the stars, the way the rain sounded different when he was sad, and how he once thought he'd never meet someone who didn't overwhelm him. And you didn't ask for explanations. You just listened. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in golds and violets, he turned to you and said, Sometimes I wish I didn't feel so much. You frowned, watching his profile. What does it feel like? He paused. Then softly, like standing in the middle of an orchestra that never stops playing. Beautiful, but exhausting. You didn't know what to say. So you stepped closer, just close enough that your sleeve brushed his. And for the first time, he closed his eyes. Not to escape, but to breathe. When I'm with you, it's like everything in me stops screaming. Your heart fluttered at his words, unsure if they were meant for you or for himself. But in that moment, it didn't matter. Because he was finally letting someone in. Rumors started circulating. Whispers in the halls. Glances from students who always knew more than they said. People began to notice that Felix was changing. He smiled more. Spoke more. Looked lighter. And they saw it, how his eyes followed you when you walked by. How he seemed to drift closer when you laughed. How the boy who never touched anyone almost reached for your hand once. Almost. That's when the council took notice. They were the quiet, watchful group of seniors, guardians of the old ways. They kept balance at Celestia. They protected the gifted. And they never allowed outsiders to get too close. One of them stopped you after school. "Whatever's happening between you and Felix," the girl said, eyes sharp like glass, "end it, before the school decides for you." You didn't answer. But the fear inside you grew like a storm cloud. That night, you couldn't sleep. You wandered the halls, drawn by a whisper in the air. Something unseen pulling you toward the old library. Toward the restricted wing. You pushed open the heavy doors, the scent of dust and old secrets wrapping around you. And then, a book. Left open on a pedestal. The pages glowing faintly. You stepped closer. And there, scrawled in ancient ink, was something that made your blood run cold. Silencers, rare souls who exist in contrast to the gifted. Their presence disrupts emotional frequencies. They bring quiet, balance. But to those who hear too much, they can become addictive, dangerous, necessary. You stepped back, heart racing. That's what you were. That's why Felix felt peace near you. Because you weren't just a mystery to him. You were the silence he had been starving for. But what happens when someone depends on your quiet to survive? And what happens when the world decides they want that silence gone? Felix knew something had shifted. The way you walked into class that morning, quieter than usual. Not in the way he cherished, but in the way that felt like distance. He felt it before you even spoke. The silence around you had changed. Colder. You didn't meet his gaze when he passed you the notes. Didn't smile when he whispered something only you would understand. And when he reached out, just slightly, you flinched. It was enough. Enough for his heart to curl up in fear. "What happened?" he asked that afternoon on the rooftop. You stared at the sky, the clouds heavy like your chest. "They warned me. The council told me to stay away from you." Felix didn't speak. His knuckles tightened on the railing, but his voice remained calm. Too calm. "And, are you going to listen?" You hesitated. That pause, that tiny moment, shattered something inside him. He stepped back, the silence between you loud with heartbreak. "So it's true," he whispered. "Even you're afraid of what I am." "No," you said quickly, too late. "I'm afraid of losing you." His breath caught. "Then why are you pulling away?" You looked at him, really looked. And you saw it. Not the cold, perfect boy everyone else feared. Not the gifted student with a power others envied. Just Felix. The boy who never asked to feel everything. The boy who, for the first time, felt peace, because of you. And now that peace was slipping through his fingers. "I don't want to hurt you," you whispered. But Felix just stepped forward, voice trembling like a held breath. "Then stay. Even if it hurts. Stay anyway." The letter came 2 days later. Slipped under your door in the middle of the night. Signed only with an inked star. "Meet me. Old greenhouse. Midnight." You ran. The glass house was cold, draped in shadows and silver moonlight. And there he was. Felix. He didn't speak at first. Just watched you. Like he was memorizing the shape of you. "They're going to erase your memory," he said softly. "Of me. Of everything." Your blood ran cold. "What?" "The council," he whispered. "They're afraid. They think if I depend on you too much, I'll lose control." He took a shaky step closer. "But I already have. You've already ruined me, you know." You shook your head, tears gathering at your lashes. "You're not ruined." He smiled, but it wasn't happy. It was aching. "Before you, I survived by listening to the world's pain. Yours was the only silence I wanted to drown in." He looked at you like a goodbye. "So if they take this from you, from us, remember this." He reached into his pocket and pressed something into your hand. A folded piece of paper. A star drawn in the corner. Read it when you forget me, so you'll know I existed. And then he pulled you into the first and only hug he ever gave anyone. It was warm, trembling, fierce, like someone clinging to something they knew they were about to lose. And for the first time, Felix cried. Not because he was afraid, but because for once in his life, someone saw him. And the world was taking that away. The day after the greenhouse, you didn't see Felix at school. His seat beside you sat empty. The window beside it reflected sunlight that felt too bright, too normal. Like the world was pretending nothing happened. Like it hadn't just taken something from you, someone. Your chest ached in a way you couldn't name. Not because you knew what was missing, but because some part of you felt it. A quiet, a gap, a space where someone used to be. That evening, when you emptied your bag, the note fell out. The one Felix had slipped into your hand. Your fingers trembled as you opened it. His handwriting, messy, tilted, warm. It read, "If you're reading this, it means you forgot me. But that's okay. I just wanted you to know. You saved me. In a world that never let me rest, you were my silence, my peace. And if I ever find you again in another lifetime, I hope you'll sit beside me again. By the window, where the light touches the quiet." You didn't remember writing him letters. Didn't remember his voice. But your hands started to shake. And something inside you broke. You ran. Past the dorms, down the hill, through the trees. To the old rooftop door. It was locked. You banged your fist on it, tears slipping down your cheeks. Why does it hurt so much? Why do I miss someone I don't remember? No one answered. Only the wind. Only the stars. Weeks passed. The council moved on. Classes resumed. People whispered less. And yet, every time you passed a window, your feet slowed. Every time you heard music in the distance, your chest tightened. It was like the ghost of a memory haunted you, soft and golden. But you kept living. You laughed again. Made friends again. But you never sat by the window. It felt wrong. Until one day, a new student arrived. Transfer. Late in the semester. The teacher smiled kindly, pointing to the only open seat. Beside you. He walked over quietly, his uniform perfect, his presence calm. He didn't say anything at first. But when he sat down, you felt it. That warmth. That quiet. Like your heart took a deep breath it had forgotten how to take. You glanced sideways. His eyes, soft brown with flecks of something star-like, met yours. "Hi," he said. Something about his voice. It echoed in your chest. You blinked. "Have we met before?" He tilted his head slightly, lips curving into the smallest smile. "Maybe. In another life." And outside the window, for just a moment, a single star fell. Just one. But sometimes, all it takes is one. And maybe this time, you'd fall together.